Hey there guys, I'm sitting here in front of the 89, standing here in front of the 89 Jeep YJ, and I want to show you guys something. I don't know how the fuel injected model is. I don't know if they changed things or not. This here is the carbureted model, so I know for sure this is at least going to be 87 through 90, and I'm sure it goes back to the CJ as well. What we're going to be looking at today is right down here. There's little tiny thin wires that go on to the little, well, I don't know what you want to call it, some type of little distribution power thing. You have your main hot from your battery, the big one, running down to the starter. And then you have a smaller one, which is now a large one because I changed a large one. That's going down to that box. It was a little one. And then from there, you have a wire going down to your starter to the solenoid to fire it. And then you've got like 3 or 4 other wires going off of that, which go into the wire harness. And those wires were just way small. Let me try if I can find them and I'll show you. Alright, so here's some of this crap we had. This here obviously somebody did. Now you know what? That was running to the amplifier. Disregard that. Here's 2 of them. I had a couple more. I probably threw them in the trash. Yeah, I don't know where they went. But anyways, you can kind of see what's going on here. So, this was actually here. I cut it open. You know, it looks like one of these fusible links, but that's not a fusible link. At least it sure doesn't look like it to me, because it had 2 wires in there, and they were just kind of, I cut the other side, but they were just, I guess, electrically welded together. But that's all that does. It just, you know, connects this wire to the next wire going out into the thing. And the reason they have these is, check this out. You got 4 wires here. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going into the wiring harness, going into the Jeep. And this is a factory wire right here coming out. I mean, that's pitiful. Yeah, I did solder that previously and put some heat shrink on it because it was destroyed. But here we have a look at another one. Problem is these wires rot out inside. They suffer from there's some of that green stuff right there. What is that, the green crusties? Moisture gets in there and it just, you'll still have the insulation, but in some cases the copper wire will be totally just gone from there. Wish I could find that other one so I could show you it. It was like that. I don't know where it is, but anyways, you can see the problem here. I mean, this is just, go away guys, this is just totally starving it. Might have been okay when it was new, but it's not new now. It's old and there's got green crap in them and they're just no good. So I'll show you what I did. Alright, so here we are. So here's the battery, obviously, right here. This red wire was a little puny wire running down there. You can see how big it is now. It's actually bigger than the wire going down to the starter. That's what I had, so that's what I used. So let's go onto the main lug right there. And then you can see those red wires I put on there. I put three red wires on there. And let me move this light so you can kind of see what's going on down here. Let's see, that's too bright. There we go. So those red wires are actually going into the loom right back here. And you can see the heat shrink I put on them. What I did was I used butt splices, but I took the insulated part off. I only used the inside, the metal, the little metal barrel. I crimped them on, and then I soldered them. So, you know, that's part of the wire. That's grafted on the wire. It's actually soldered, and then I heat shrunk over them. You can see there's a few of them there. I did leave one. You can see there's still one wire right here with the little black thing on it. It's a smaller black wire. I left that one because it still appeared to be doing pretty good. So that's the only one I left. But the other ones all need it replaced. You can see I replaced them with some beefier wire. And like I said, I also replaced the main wire going to it directly from the battery with beefier wire. So that should help out tremendously. Okay, and then here's what a previous owner did at some point. This here was the positive going onto the battery, and you can see that looks like a homemade, or not a homemade deal, but they bought it and crimped the wires in there. I don't think the wire was already crimped in there looking like that, because it was wrapped in electrical tape. But if you look in there, there's some corrosion, and that's actually two wires. You had the main wire right here running to the starter, and then this one here was that little wire running to that little box, that solenoid box or whatever it is. So anyways, I did away with both of these. I just hacked them off. And I had these laying around. I don't know where I got them at, but they've been laying around in my my little drawer of miscellaneous electrical stuff for years. So I finally used them. They appear to be okay. So, I did the same thing. I crimped these ends on, soldered them. I actually made these out of copper pipe. Wasn't going to go to Lowe's and buy them for $6 for each one, which is ridiculous. I did the same thing over here to this one. Also heat shrinked them. So what we have over here on the positive is this wire here going in here, because you have two additional terminals here. This is for the amplifier for the subwoofer here. This one on top here, this is the main battery wire going to the starter. And this one over here, the other big one over here, that's the one going to that main distribution solenoid box thing. And then this little one here, that's just for the CB and the CB amplifier. So that's all been cleaned up now. And then on the negative, all we have, of course, is the negative running to the engine block. And actually, I just saw something I'm going to change. Anyways, the negative run to the engine block, the negative for the CB and the CB amplifier. And just occurred to me, we don't have a body strap, a body ground. I mean, obviously, it's going to the engine, and it's going to get grounded out through the transmission or the motor mounts, or it's getting grounded out somewhere. There's probably a ground strap on the back of the engine, but still, it's always good to have a body strap. So I just basically just now caught that. Really wasn't even thinking about it before. So I'm going to run a ground strap. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll go ahead and run it from here, and I'll probably run it down to that bolt down there to the chassis. Yeah, that's always a good idea. Yeah, so that's how that right there is now, and that should give us a lot more juice in the cab, because as it is right now, the voltage gauge in there on the dash will read 14 volts. You check it at the battery, it's about 14.3, 14.4 when it's running, which is just fine at the battery. Alternator's doing its job. But as soon as you turn the headlights on, and the running lights, of course, that come on with it, that gauge drops down to like probably 12 volts flat. And if you come out here and you check the battery, you still have full alternator voltage of the battery, 14. It might go down to 14.2, 14.2, 14.3, but it's definitely working. You definitely have full voltage of the battery. So that tells me there's a weak link getting into the cab there. And I definitely know about the headlights. It's an older vehicle, and for whatever reason, these guys weren't thinking back then. It's not just a Jeep thing. My Ford Bronco 2, 88, basically the same vintage as this, 1 year older, it suffered from the same issue. The power basically ran inside, ran through the light switch for the headlights, the running lights, all that, and then came back out and went to your headlights with no relay. So therefore, all the current is going inside, all this distance going to your headlight switch, and then it's, your switch has to conduct all that current, and then it has to come all the way back out to the lights again. So I already know about the Jeep suffering from that. A lot of folks will go ahead and just install 2 relays up here. They'll install one for the high beam, one for the low beam. And basically the wires coming out here are going to act as a trigger from your headlight switch in there. So that'll be your trigger wire. So that'll go to your switch side of the relay. And then all you have to do is, of course, run a ground, and then you run your load side right back to the wires for the headlights, and then you'll just run a large wire from there right to the positive of the battery. So that way, the relay, all it is a switch. So instead of switching it from way in there and going through the whole circuit and coming out, all you're doing is you're switching it right here, and current has to go from here to here. And that's something I may do in the future. I don't feel it needs it, but it would definitely help. It would definitely be beneficial, so I might do that. Show you one more thing real quick. Don't ask me why they did this, but on the driving lights or fog lights, whatever you want to call them, this is obviously a factory harness because it has a factory weather pack type connection there. This side here I've spliced into, but anyway. So those are factory on both sides. And for whatever reason, they actually ran a relay for the driving lights. Now it's actually under this duct hose. Let me see, pull that out of there and show you. Yeah, it's down there. Anyway, I don't know if you could see it, but it's right under that duct hose. So why the engineers ran a relay for the driving lights, but not for the headlights, is beyond me. But anyways, that's something we could tackle in the future. Right now, I just wanted to get those wire upgrades done. And you can see them down there. I think that's going to be quite beneficial for the old Jeep. So, if any of you guys have one of these, you might want to check that out. Like I said, mine, I mean, this vehicle doesn't have rust on it. You can see it's a clean, rust-free vehicle. And but moisture got to it over the years. I mean, it's 30 years old, and they were green. And like I said, when I first got it, my interior lights didn't work. Actually, the hood light didn't work, and the 3 interior lights wouldn't come on. And I tracked everything down. It was driving me crazy. And finally, I started looking up here, and I start filling the wire. And one of them was just the insulation was just as floppy as could be, you know, like a cooked spaghetti noodle. And that let me know right away, hey, there's no copper left in there. It got eaten away. And yeah, it can happen. I had it happen to my security camera one time when I had wired cameras way back in the day. I ran it in conduit under the ground, and I guess being under the ground there, when it rained, moisture found its way somehow into the conduit. And even though the coax for the cameras, you know, were all sealed and, you know, watertight and everything else, moisture somehow got through it, and it took me forever to figure out why that camera wasn't working. It wasn't producing video or audio. That's what it was, about 6 feet of wire under the ground. All the insulation, everything was there. You couldn't tell there was anything wrong in there, but once you cut it, it was just like white dust. It was gone. So moisture causes that. So anyways, that's a thing to check out for, guys. All right, thanks for watching. I know it's long-winded. Hopefully it helps someone.